Discussion on rheumatic mitral regurgitation. Though most of the manifestations of acute rheumatic fever do not leave long-lasting sequelae, carditis is different. Carditis can resolve without any sequelae in a few cases, but most often it leads to valvular lesions which are progressive.
Please subscribe to this channel for future updates. Click on the subscribe button. Press the bell icon after that for all updates.
The most commonly involved valve is the mitral valve, and mitral regurgitation is the commonest lesion in acute rheumatic fever. Stenotic lesions do not occur in the acute phase as they take a long time to develop by progressive fibrosis. According to Paul Wood, the frequency of involvement of the valves in rheumatic fever is related to the hemodynamic load on the valve. In this respect, mitral valve has the maximum load, followed by aortic, tricuspid and pulmonary in that order. Hemodynamic load on the mitral valve is the left ventricular systolic pressure, while that on the aortic valve is the aortic diastolic pressure. The load corresponds roughly to the distal pressure when the valve is closed. Mitral valve is the commonest valve involved in rheumatic heart disease. Mitral regurgitation occurs in the early phase of acute rheumatic fever itself. In fact, it is almost an invariable association of rheumatic carditis. In very early stages of rheumatic carditis, MR may be clinically silent but demonstrable by Doppler echocardiography. Some studies have shown that Doppler echocardiographic detection of MR in the acute phase of rheumatic carditis predates clinical detection by up to 2 weeks. Many of the cases of MR due to rheumatic carditis resolve later or decrease in severity on follow-up. Even though the carditis in rheumatic fever is a pancarditis, the predominant involvement is that of the endocardium in the form of valvular involvement. Hence, the mechanism of mitral regurgitation in the acute phase is mainly valvular and seldom due to left ventricular dilatation secondary to myocarditis and left ventricular failure. But significant MR itself can set up a vicious cycle because left ventricular dilatation caused by MR can further increase the MR. This is by dilatation of the mitral annulus, which decreases the coaptation of mitral leaflets in systole. This is known as MR begets MR. Clinically, chronic rheumatic MR is associated with a forceful left ventricular apical impulse, cardiomegaly, soft first heart sound, left ventricular third heart sound, and an apical pansystolic murmur which is conducted to the axilla. Conduction to the axilla differentiates the murmur of rheumatic MR from the murmur of MR due to papillary muscle dysfunction. Murmur of MR in papillary muscle dysfunction is usually conducted to the base of the heart. This is because anterior mitral leaflet is involved more in rheumatic MR and the jet is directed posteriorly. Posterior papillary muscle is more commonly involved and the jet is directed anteriorly in ischemic papillary muscle dysfunction. Echocardiogram showing posteriorly directed MR jet in rheumatic heart disease. Sometimes a late systolic pulsation of the left parasternal region due to the expansion of the left atrium may also be felt. ECG may show PR interval prolongation in the acute phase of rheumatic MR with carditis. In chronic rheumatic MR of significant severity, ECG shows left atrial and left ventricular enlargement. Chest X-ray shows cardiomegaly and left atrial enlargement in severe rheumatic MR. Pulmonary congestion and features of pulmonary hypertension may occur in late stages. Pulmonary congestion and cardiac failure can also occur in the acute phase if the rheumatic carditis is fulminant. Echocardiography shows thickening of the mitral leaflets and tethering of the posterior mitral leaflet with restriction of movement. But frank reversal of movement, that is paradoxical anterior movement of the posterior leaflet in diastole as in mitral stenosis, does not occur in isolated rheumatic MR. Immobility of the posterior leaflet is the hallmark of rheumatic mitral regurgitation, which differentiates it from non-rheumatic mitral regurgitation on echocardiography. Systolic separation of the mitral leaflets can be seen sometimes. Dilated left atrium and left ventricle gives a suggestion that the MR is significant. Doppler echocardiography is needed to confirm MR and quantify it. The intensity of the spectral tracing and the depth to which the jet is located by pulse Doppler is an indication of severity of MR. By color Doppler, the area of the jet in relation to the left atrium determines the severity. The depth to which the jet reaches in the left atrium is also an important determinant of severity. According to the World Heart Federation criteria, morphological features of rheumatic mitral valve involvement on echocardiography are 1. Anterior mitral leaflet thickening of 3 mm or more, 2. Caudal thickening, 3. Restricted leaflet motion, 4. Excessive leaflet tip motion during systole. Unlike the mitral valve in non-rheumatic MR, the heavily scarred mitral valve in rheumatic MR may not always be suitable for a conservative mitral valve repair procedure. Very often, they end up in mitral valve replacement if severe enough to produce symptoms or impairment of left ventricular function. Here is a reference on World Heart Federation criteria for echocardiographic diagnosis of rheumatic heart disease.
Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel for future updates and click on the bell icon for all updates. Thank you.